This is Bumping Into, where we have interesting conversations with people from all walks of life.
The 1960s Australia, and the Easybeats are riding a wave of popularity to rival the Beatles, one of the first Australian pop rock bands to make it big with all original songs. Then they went global with this.
Monday morning feels so bad. Everybody seems to nag me. Coming Tuesday, I feel better. Even my old man looks good. Wednesday just don't go. Thursday goes too slow. I'll have Friday on my mind. Gonna have fun in the city.
Welcome to Bumping Into, and I am your host, Francis Populin, and this episode is all about the unknown story around the worldwide hit Friday on My Mind by Australian group The Easybeats. My guest is iconic 1960s hitmaker and producer Shel Talmy. Shel has worked with the likes of the Beach Boys, Jimmy Page, and was responsible for producing hits with the Kinks, You Really Got Me, and the Who's Talking About My Generation. Shel was asked to produce a hit with the Easybeats while they were living in England. It was the first time that Ted Elbert had stepped away from producing and mixing the band, and not only did it create a hit, his advice and instructions around the songwriting structure gave way to the famous Vanda and Young songwriting team. But it wasn't all as straightforward as it seems. This is Shel's story about the lead-up and then what happened as soon as he got the band the number one hit they wanted. It's Shel's insight into a behind-the-scenes, I guess you could say, of the Friday on My Mind hit. Settle in for a great story with my guest, Shel Talmy.
Hello.
Shel, it's Francis from Bumping Into. Thanks very much for being free to come on the show.
No problem. I might even like it.
Well, I hope you do. I thought before we get started into the Friday on My Mind story, and I know that you've done a lot. You've done other podcasts, and I'm sure you're probably sick of telling the same story about yourself over and over again. But you're obviously a key figure of the 1960s sound. But I wanted to go into how you ended up leaving America and heading over to the UK.
Because I was working for an English guy as an engineer in LA who kept telling me how wonderful England is. So I said, fine, I'm going to take 5 weeks off and go and check it out and see some of Europe, because I was early 20s. And I went over. I thought it'd be nice if I could work for a couple of weeks while I was there, because I didn't have much bread. And my friend, who was Nick Benet, who was Capitol Records in A&R, I told him I was going and I was going to try and get some work. And he said, here, take a couple of my acetates and tell him you did them, because I hadn't really done much of anything except engineering. And I got over there and got an appointment through somebody else I knew at Decca, and said pretty much, this is what I've just done, and gave him the two essays, which were Blue Rolls and the Beach Boys. And he said, good, you start today. So by the time they found out it was all a lot of crap, I already had a hit, and stayed for the next 17 years.
And when you were over there, were you the guy that was discovering all this new talent and channeling them through, or were they beating down your door to come and work with you, or was it a combination of both?
It's kind of a combination. Well, it started out after I had to go. Well, actually, Becca gave me a band to work with first, which was the Bachelors, with 3 harmonica players, and I think maybe they were testing me because I'd teach them how to sing. And first thing I did was Charmaine, which is a big hit with them. So, once I had that, it got a lot easier.
Wow. And I mean, it would have obviously been an exciting time. One we'll never see the likes of again. I'm assuming with you had so much talent coming through, and there would have been so much change. That the sound would have been changing, the attitudes would have been changing, and even the technology would have been changing so fast at that time.
Well, yeah, no question. We're pretty much everybody was breaking new ground. Yes, that's true. And fortunately for me, I had my background of engineering uh, here in LA, and brought stuff with me that I was doing nobody else was doing, including using 12 mics on drums, which nobody was doing. Everybody started doing it after I proved it could be done. So it was a good time to try new stuff and break new ground, and it made it a lot more fun that way.
Because I was going to ask you about that 12 mic story, because obviously you got told you can't do that, and you had done it before, and then it set a benchmark. The sound difference must have been astronomical to go from the conventional way to the way that you broke ground. It must have been a huge leap, one of those leaps that occurs that becomes a game-changing leap, and obviously everyone benefits. The bands benefit, the fans benefit, but it's amazing that with so much music happening over in England at the time, no one else had thought of it, and then you had to sort of prove your case.
Well, they didn't. I'm assuming they didn't think it could be done, and since I had some free time at the studio, I worked at proving that it could be done. And once it did, I guess everybody decided to pick up on it, because I was after having total control over the drum set, which we didn't have, because at that time everybody was using like 3 or 4 mics maximum on the whole set, and it wasn't really good enough.
Yeah, and obviously you would have. I mean, when that 60s sound is something that you're defined with, but I'm assuming that your career in the recording industry pushed past that 60s point, and you were flowing onwards into the 70s and onwards and after. Is that right?
I think I got what you say. You say did I carry on for as long as I carried on because I wanted to, or
Well,
and
well,
then eased off? Yeah, that's probably the answer. That's what I think you're saying. That's the case. Yes.
yeah. And when did you end up retiring or finishing up in the industry?
Well, I haven't retired. I'm still doing it.
Wow.
I got hired, and I've spent too much. I spent tons of time in the studio recording an awful lot of stuff. I took time off and did a whole bunch of other things, and then got tired of that and went back into doing what I was doing, what I'm still doing.
Wow. Oh, geez, that's great. Especially if you're doing what you love. There's no better way to do it.
Yeah, no, it's now fun again, and I'm actually I've gotten very busy being in the studio, so that's which is nice again, and technology obviously is way tons better,
Yeah.
so makes the whole practice of uh, recording a band or recording anybody a hell of a lot easier.
And your thoughts on the current trend? I mean, back when it all started, it was get everyone in the room, have the energy of the room, the character of the people, and then you'd play, and they'd play for all hours to get that sound. These days, it seems to be you send a tape. Well, it's not a tape anymore, but you send a file, and then the singer comes in and does his bit on his own, and the drummer does their bit on their own. Surely you cannot get that same feeling by the modern style of isolated recording of tracks compared to having everyone together.
Oh, no, you're talking about recording one person at a time.
Yeah,
I have never done that. I will never do that. It's soulless. It's
yeah,
dry. It is anything in the way of feel is down the toilet.
yes,
So
yeah.
no, I will never do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, well, let's jump into the Easybeats story.
Okay.
Obviously, the Easybeats are, a famous Australian band and sort of one of the very first big bands that we had back here in the 60s. And how did you come to be involved? I know that there's a movie that came out a couple of years ago in Australia called Friday on My Mind, which was obviously,
Yeah, I know. I heard about it, and I heard somebody portrayed me smoking cigars and all that kind of crap, which I never do. I've never done, by the way. Um, uh, yeah, I never even bothered to try and see it. That's distracting. uh, how they came about? Very simple. Mike Vaughn, who was I'm not sure what you'd call him. I thought he was the manager.
yeah,
Um, came to me, and the story as I got it was that Ted Albert brought him to London and quote unquote produced a couple of 3 tracks with them for I guess it was UA, and they apparently were bad enough so they removed him from producing. And so Mike Vaughn came, and he was uh, uh, several people recommended he come and see me. So I heard the band, I liked them a lot. I met them, and I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do them." And I think it's fairly well known that I did not particularly care for the songs that they had written at that point. I didn't think it was a hit song in it.
yeah.
And I said, "Please go away, write songs, come and see me once a week, and play me what you've written." And that went on for I think about 6 weeks. When they came in and played Friday in My Mind, I said, "Stop! That's the song we're doing." And I think that took me about 4 bars. And we went in and did it. The rest is I guess they say, is history.
I can only assume that Ted Albert wouldn't have been too happy with being told that he's lost that, but he's not basically going to
I
do it.
think he was. I think the word would be pissed off that I had replaced him, and that I had success where he didn't, and which is obviously getting to the point of what we're talking about here is why he never paid me a penny and told me to sue him. So I'm still very unhappy about all that. I've never gotten a penny for doing Friday in My Mind.
He seemed to have a personal issue with yourself when you were asked to do that job, and you did the job, and you produced a hit. It's quite odd that he took it upon himself
Well,
to be angry with you.
I, I I would have thought that he'd be pleased,
Yeah,
and the mistake I made was making the deal, or rather the contract, with him personally. I would after that I never did that again. I'd do it either the label or nobody,
yeah,
um, because he basically screwed me, and uh, I'm still, like I said, I'm still unhappy about it. It rankles a lot.
yeah, yeah. I can imagine. I can
And the
imagine.
fact that he was part of a large and well-known publishing company with tons of bread, and they didn't have the good grace to honor what he was supposed to pay me and pay me. They never. I tried to get in touch with them. They never acknowledged it, and I've not been paid a penny. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm still unhappy about it. Albeit it's many years, but what the hell?
Yeah,
You know,
for sure, for sure.
I can still hold a grudge.
I mean, according to Snowy, the drummer, he's in a documentary or a couple of little clips where he says that you had suggested that perhaps George and Harry take over the writing duties, and obviously that then led to what became in itself a very famous partnership in Australia with the Vander and Young songwriting partnership. Is that true that you made
Yeah,
that suggestion?
yeah, I did.
Wow.
And as far as ACDC is concerned, I kind of wish they'd asked me to do them. That would have been nice,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, those two guys wrote a lot of songs. They had a lot of success from that point for decades. They were sort of doing a lot of work. So it's
Yep.
quite amazing that it all stems back to how important Friday on My Mind obviously was in creating a hit, but also in shaping the
Yep.
future of that team.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree that that is correct, and that they certainly worked well together. And I'm aware that Friday in My Mind, I believe, was voted as the greatest rock and roll record by an Australian band ever, or something to that effect.
Yeah, yep,
And which is nice. I'm very pleased about that. I'm still displeased I'm not being paid for it, but
yeah. And what's interesting is if you listen to their work, the Easybeats work, uh, there is a very clear distinction in a sound difference from like when they were doing their earlier stuff. She's So Fine and Sorry, and then when you produced Friday on My Mind, it really was a big step up. It instantly sounded international. It just, I suppose, everything lined up. You could tell it was going to be. I mean, it was number one in Australia, top 10 in the UK, top 20 in the US. Um,
yes,
it
absolutely.
was
No,
massive.
it was in the charts everywhere. I'm aware of that.
Yeah,
Some music guy back in the day when all that happened, I found out about the story, said the major difference is that I could produce and Albert couldn't. So I'm not going to argue that.
Do you think if the guys had, because after that song, they well, they sort of
Well, I did
jumped.
an album with them after. I did an LP with them after the songs.
Oh, right, I
And
didn't know that.
there's some very good tracks on the LP, and it's called Friday in My Mind, I believe, or just Friday.
Right, okay, okay. Do you think they had more if they had stuck with yourself? Because after you, they seemed to jump around a bit. They were sort of jumping from, I suppose, I don't know, management pushing them into one direction and then changing the direction again. If they'd stuck with
Right.
you, do you see more hits that they could have gone on to sustain, more international grade hits?
I'm as sure as I can be that I would have produced more hits with them uh, over a longer period of time, and that they would have been even more well known than they are.
Yep.
But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, yep. I mean, and it ended, 1969. That was all over. But between, I suppose,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
drug issues that most bands seem to come undone with, and management issues, and poor management and all the
yeah.
rest of it.
Oh, that
It's
I know about that.
yeah,
I believe Steve had the overdose or he had a major drug issue, I believe,
yeah,
and died. And the rest, I never involved myself with what they did when we weren't recording, and I have no idea who did what or what they imbibed because it was not my problem.
yeah. That's right.
Um,
You were there to do
all
your
I was
job.
concerned about was making good records. So,
Yeah. Yep. And it's interesting. I saw this guitarist who is an English guitarist talking about that song, and he said that a lot of people, on the surface, it just seems like a pop rock song. He said, but it was actually far more progressive than a lot of other songs at the time, and it was quite clever, and it was more complicated. It wasn't the same three chords going round and round. The way the lyrics
no,
came
no,
in, it
no.
was it was very intelligently created.
Well, the whole point was to because I said when I first heard it, I loved what I heard. And I said I thought it was a hit immediately when I heard it, and I, I I did what I do, which is produce the record to my best ability. And as
Yeah.
it turned out, it was good enough to become a worldwide hit, which is nice.
Yeah, well, no, look, and I'm sure the world thanks you for that too, because it brought the Easy Beats fame, everywhere else, and it's still a great song. It's been covered by Bruce Springsteen, Gary Moore. It's still
Yep.
it's still a love song. It's so
Yep.
you
I
did a
don't
great
think
job.
either one of them is good. I don't think any of them are as good as what the Easy Beats did.
I agree, and I don't mind a cover. I don't mind a modern version that gets a bit more rocky and fattened up in the sound. But I do agree with you on that one. I think that one there just nailed it. It was all the stars lined up at the right time.
Well, it gets you instantly from the first few seconds with the guitar riff, and once that happens and the rest of it unfolds, it's either going to endear itself, which it did to an enormous number of people, or it's going to not register. Fortunately for me, it did register. So there you go.
Yeah. And I've got to ask you, out of all the bands that you've worked with from the early days to current, who is there a favourite? Have you got one band or one guy that was just always someone that you just loved working with?
I've been fortunate to have several I've liked a lot. I liked for the most part working with the Who. I disliked working with the managers who were garbage. Um, the Who itself themselves are great. I'm still uh, speak to Pete from time to time. I like working. Well, I mean, I love working with the Kinks because Ray Davis kept writing great songs. It made life a lot easier.
Yeah.
I loved the Pentangle. I really loved because they were all superstars on their own and came together as a basically super folk group, and that was great fun to do. And because they're all so good. Um, I mean, there's several bands I've worked with that I really liked a lot.
And in terms of current talent, is there anyone that you like? If you're talking, either they're not yet known or they're currently coming through the ranks. Who are you into at the moment?
Yeah, I've actually just done a deal for a band here called the Rick Whitfield Band, and they're going to be signed to a company I've been working with who licenses songs for TV and film, and he's brilliant. I think we're going to have a bunch of I know we're going to have a bunch of very good records, and I like to think some of them will be hits. We are still, unlike what is still happening but changing, we are doing music as opposed to what's currently in the charts, which for the most part is not what I'd call music.
Yeah, I'd agree.
uh, and yeah, it's starting to change, which I'm pleased about finally. And what I'll be doing with Rick is I think it's going to come out great. And I got these various other artists because of that I'm also starting to work with. But I think we'll be in the same mode of actual music and with really good songs. So that's what I've been working towards for the last few months, and I think we're pretty much there. I'll be uh, embarking on doing that in the next couple of 3 weeks.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Well, Shel, look, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you making the time to come and talk to me. To give up some time on your
It was a
Saturday
pleasure.
afternoon.
I'm enjoying it's been fun to do because it's stuff I remember. I was there. I did it, and apparently it appeals to a whole lot of people who are uh, either of an age or want to know actually what happened back then.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, so one way or another, things gotten popular, which is nice. I'm pleased about that.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. You know, I'm interested to know your time. You started in the 60s when music, obviously rock and roll was beginning, and it went from the very clean sound to a little bit of overdrive and the guitaring got heavier. Do you remember that point when all of a sudden the Marshall stacks arrived and it was that big booming bottom end rock sound was turned up on the doorstep and that was then the trend? Do you remember that point?
Yeah, I'm told one of the major changes is when I did "You Really Got Me." So
Wow,
um,
okay.
that's it's apparently established a whole bunch of stuff, including because I always made loud records, so it was a loud record, and the fact that it was a lot of people credit it as the beginning of hard rock and all that kind of stuff. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. But that's certainly that. And of course, when I did My Generation, that's the other one that they say was responsible for changing the way stuff happened. So, I don't know. I wouldn't say yes or no. If that was the case, I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah.
If not, then it's whatever.
Yeah. Well, you're just so fortunate you were a part of it. You from the beginning.
Oh yeah,
you were across it so well.
Yeah. Well, it's what I wanted. It's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do the best I could, and I really enjoyed breaking new ground and doing things that nobody else has done, because otherwise you're just basically following the leader, and it was never my intention to do that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And have you ever been to Australia?
I have never. I've had 4 or 5 trips scheduled, none of which ever happened.
Oh.
I'd love to get to Australia. I have some friends there, and no, it hasn't happened, and I'd like to think it still will at some point.
Oh, well, if you ever do get here, make sure you let me know, and we'll catch up for a coffee
Oh,
or a
yeah,
dinner.
we'll do. Sure.
Right, Shel. Well, look, thanks again so much, and hopefully we get to talk again, and you enjoy the rest of your what is it, Saturday afternoon.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
No, thank you. Thanks, Shel. I'll speak to you next time.
Okay, great. Thanks. Bye-bye.
I guess we do have to point out in today's hypersensitive world that is Shel's story and version of events. Obviously, Ted isn't around to defend himself or what had happened at that time, but it makes for a great, fascinating story either way. And let's hope that those little clips I used in the intro don't cause any copyright issues. Obviously, everything is owned by their respective owners, and it was just being used for educational purposes, with no copyright infringement intended. The Easybeats were a perfect product of their time, but as I see it, unlike how the English never forgot the Beatles, the Rolling Stones or the Who, a lot of young Australians probably don't know who the Easybeats are, and they really should. Thanks for listening to the show. They tell me I need you to leave a 5-star review, otherwise the show just doesn't appear on other people's feeds. While I would love for you to do that, what I am going to ask you to do is, if you know anyone that you think would enjoy the show, please do share it or tell them about it. You can also find past episodes and more information on bumpinginto.com.au. And while we're asking for favours, if anyone does know how to get in contact with Harry Vander of the Easybeats, please feel free to email me through the website bumpinginto.com.au. That is a conversation that I would love to get down on tape with Harry about his time with the Easybeats and the songwriting partnership with him and George that continued on afterwards. I think it'd be a great story. Anyone does have a point of contact, please feel free to jump on the website, send me an email, and I will follow that up. Thanks again, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.